Hi, I'd like to welcome you to English 122. This is the late start online version of English 122 through Pikes Peak Community College. My name is Chris Moreno. I'm your instructor this semester, and it's a pleasure to meet you. I apologize for a poor quality video. I'll work on that. I'm not very tech savvy yet, but I'm working on it. I wanted to go through this brief, I hope it's brief, video for you to give you a rundown of the course introduction. I want to make sure that you understand the syllabus. I want to make sure you understand the D2L shell we'll be using for the class. With an online class, you use the D2L shell more than with a traditional face-to-face class. I wanted to make sure that I went over the basics of a first lecture. So if we were in class, we'd be going over what do I mean by reading skills, close reading skills, careful reading, analytic reading, critical reading, those kind of things. I want to make sure we go over a little bit about writing. What do we mean by academic writing? And what are our goals for writing for this semester? And I also wanted to go over what analysis is. What are we looking for in critical analysis and how those three work together in an online writing course in English 122 specifically. The goal for English 122 is to enhance the skills that you learned in 121, or if you came to 122 without 121 through AccuPlacer or through any kind of testing. I want to make sure that you know that you were building on those skills that we learned with effective, persuasive writing. We're looking for effective writing. So the two goals for writing, for our own writing, persuasive and effective. The two goals for our analysis are analyzing for persuasiveness and effectiveness. So we'll look at those throughout the semester and break those down. One thing I wanted to tell you about this semester that's new for Pikes Peak Community College is that they are going to an online open education resource system for textbooks. You no longer have to buy a textbook for English, which is a blessing because, let's face it, $90 for a text that you may or may not ever open or read can be really hard. So I wanted to make sure that you understand that our textbook is all online. Any additional supplemental readings that we have, I will post online for you in our D2L shell so you don't have to purchase any additional materials. It's covered in your fees, and I think this is a great step. I wanted to give you a caveat too, though, that the materials that are posted online in the beginning of this project, they're not as thorough as some of the readings that I might like or that you might like, but we'll work together to make sure that you understand the concepts. So I wanted to make sure that you also understood that if you have any questions about the assignments, about the readings, about anything on our schedule, that you touch base with me. I'm happy to help you in any way. I will respond to your questions within 24 hours. I want to make sure that you understand that you can reach out to me on email and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. It will not be longer than 24 hours. One of the things on the syllabus I wanted you to be aware of is that because it's an online course, I ask that you check your email often. If there's any kind of changes to our schedule, if I feel like we are going too fast to get those materials honed down, if we have any kind of changes to the assignments, I want to make sure that to your benefit that you know about them in advance. I will never make an assignment due sooner than it's posted, but I certainly am happy to adjust and make sure that we really nail down those skills that we have to build on the foundation for the next writing assignment. So the course builds one assignment, builds on the next, on the next, on the next. The course is broken into 4 modules for writing. We're going to have a total of 5 writing projects due. The first module has 3 separate writing assignments. It's more of a revision to review the information that you've had. The first writing assignment is a simple describe, analyze, and evaluate assignment. We'll go through that. It's going to be a very simple, easy exercise on writing 3 paragraphs, very simple. It's not a formal paper, so I'll go through that information for you. I'll make sure I post an example online. I will post examples of all of our assignments online for your reference. The second writing assignment that we will have is a basic argument paper. You've already done those. It's where you put forth your own position and you support it with evidence. The third assignment we have will be a critical analytic paper or a rhetorical analytical paper, your choice. We'll explain the difference between critical analysis and rhetorical analysis. They're all critical analysis. Rhetorical analysis is a specific focus of a critical analytic paper. That paper will be fairly easy to do. We're looking at whether somebody is persuasive or effective and why. Then we move into the second module. The second module will be the research proposal or an abstract. An abstract is a very small paper. It's only going to be 2 paragraphs long, but it requires intensive thought and preparation. You have to ask a lot of questions about what you want to do for your final project. The final project of this course is, of course, a researched argument paper. It's a longer paper than most of you have written. It's going to be between 6 to 10 pages. Usually around 6 and 7 pages is where they come in on this course. The third project, the third module, will contain an annotated bibliography. If you've not done an annotated bibliography before, it is a way to find your research that you will use for your sources for your final project, and then you analyze those sources. What is this author saying? What is this source telling me? How will I use it? Or how will I not use it? Why will I not use it? Very simple exercise. It can be cumbersome because it takes a lot of time. It's easy to write, but time consuming. So I want to make sure that you're aware of your time and budgeting your time for writing. The final paper is, of course, Module 4. It's going to be that research academic argument. A researched academic argument is the target goal is for an elevated audience, an academic audience. A researched argument is one in which you find other sources to integrate into your own work, whether you're going to position yourself against that argument, whether you're going to align yourself along with that argument. It's how you're going to integrate those sources, and we'll cover that as we get through the course. So that's the module, 4-module sequence with the writing assignments. Along with those writing assignments for each module, you will have a worksheet. The worksheet is meant to be a template. The template is meant to go along to say, I'm asking these questions of myself, and then I can plug in the answer from this worksheet to use as my basic writing template to get your brain working for that paper. They don't have to be the same. If you find the worksheet at the end of the worksheet, you're not interested in writing that project anymore, no worries. You've already done the worksheet. We'll take that. But the worksheet is meant as a tool to help you in that writing. We'll have 2 quizzes. The 2 quizzes, of course, are going to be open book, open note. They're just to touch base to remind you of terms so that when I'm writing feedback to you, for example, the first quiz is on the basics of composition and reading. The things I'm looking for are, do you know what a thesis is? Can you state what it is? Can you tell me what a so what is at the end of a paper? And I'll tell you the reasons why I'm having those quizzes is to make sure that when I say to you in my feedback to you, tighten your thesis, it's not clear, you'll know what I mean by that because we have the same vocabulary. So the quizzes are simple. They're just 25 short answer quizzes, some true and false. The second quiz is going to focus on research, and the research things will be things like, what does MLA format mean? What does a database? What do I do with this source? Be very simple. I don't want you to stress about the quizzes. As with any online course, because we don't have class discussion, you have me jabbering at you on video, and hopefully they'll be more enlivened for you. I apologize for the dryness of this. But I wanted you to know that for an online course, they have discussion posts, and I'm trying to make them as painless as possible. Discussion posts can be cumbersome, especially at the end of a long work week. If you're a working parent, you're single but working full-time, if you have responsibilities, some people are working 2 jobs and taking online courses. I understand that sometimes it's not till late Sunday night when you're getting everything done, and I don't want those discussion posts to be cumbersome. So for this course, I'm asking you to do a total of 20 posts. 10 will be your own thread, so responding to the prompt that I've posted. And 10 will be responding to one of your classmates' threads. So a simple one thread post, one response post. And we'll have 20 of those. In the semester, it's a 12-week semester. So one of your weeks, free choice, whichever one you don't want to post to, that's fine. Then for Thanksgiving week, because it's going to be Thanksgiving week, we're not going to have discussion posts that week. So you'll see that listed on the syllabus. I wanted to make sure that you understood how the discussion post element of our assignments are going. So for the total value, there's going to be 1,000 points total for this semester from the papers, from the discussion posts, from the quizzes, and from the worksheets. And again, if you have any questions, please let me know. All of this is up on our syllabus, and the syllabus is broken down into the academic support information. If you have any kind of accessibility services requirements, there's a link on there. There's a link to the master syllabus, which is for the college. It goes through the dean's policies, that kind of thing, for Pikes Peak specifically, for the community college system of Colorado. I wanted you to see on the syllabus, I wanted to point out that late work really can't be accepted for this class, but if you have a documented emergency, of course I'm not going to be a jerk about it. I will work with you in any way I can. I've already touched base with some of you about some conditions that you have in your life, and that's no worries. Just keep touching base with me. I don't need to know the particulars or the details. I'm not trying to pry, but I want to make sure that you're up to date, that I can help you with being current. If you're struggling with an assignment, reach out to me. We'll work with that. But I want you to stay on top of those deadlines for the papers, for the worksheets, because once you get behind, it starts snowballing in a 12-week semester. So the syllabus is broken down into the first section of the syllabus has the academic speak in there, the links to the master syllabus. The second part of the syllabus will have the projects that are assigned and the points available, the grading breakdown. The third and most important part of the syllabus I really want you to know about and pay attention to, that's going to be your reading schedule, the reading and the writing schedule. So you'll see the schedule broken down, and the first column will say the week. So for week 1, that's this week. So for next Sunday, that's when the Dropbox will close for the first 2 discussion posts. Dropbox closes at 11:59 on Sundays of the date due. You can post any time up till then. If you miss the 11:59 posting for a discussion post, then that'll be the one that you'll use as the skipping, and we'll just get back on track for the next week. The next section of the reading schedule says topic, and that's the information we'll be covering that week. The information we'll be covering can be found through the OER, which is the Online Educational Resource textbook, and that is under the D2L shell. It will say OER. It has the text as a PDF form and as linked text. Underneath that tab, I have the listed readings for that week that I'd like you to glance over. If you can't prepare it, well, don't worry about it. If you can really read it, if you have questions about it, that would be great because it enhances what we're doing that week. So this week, we've got a few readings. The first thing that I'm looking for is I want you to read through the information about how to read a text, how to close read. The second part in that section is a little bit about what I'm looking for. What do we mean by an academic argument? We're looking at the concept of audience. So those are the components I want to focus on this week for our class. So audience. Thinking about audience when you're writing, you have to have an audience in mind. Generally, it's, as they say in the South, all y'all. So if it's all y'all, that's one thing, but you also need to have something in mind. So for example, if I'm going to be writing a proposal to my boss, I believe that I need to have a raise. I'm going to keep that boss in mind. Of course, for an academic paper, you have to think that, oh yeah, your professor is going to be reading it, and that's true. And there'll be a general academic audience. So you want to keep your language on the level of professionalism. But you also want to keep in mind, what does that audience need from me? And what do I need to do to win that audience's trust, to believe that I'm an authority, that I'm clear, I'm concise, I'm coherent, that I'm writing persuasively and effectively to that audience. So I want you to really think about the relationship between an author and the audience. And then think about the text itself. A text can be any message at all. It can be a lyric, it can be a movie, it can be a documentary, it can be a song with the music itself, it can be a written text, it can be a poem, it can be a love letter, it can be a text message. Any of those things are texts. What is the message? So the text is not only the medium, but the message that that information is being delivered. And it's a negotiation between author and audience. So I want you to think about that. It forms a triangle. We call it the rhetorical triangle, and we'll cover that next week. But I really want you to think about what you need from your audience and what an audience needs from a reader and what the text is doing in the middle of it. So those are the things that we're thinking about for this coming week under the readings. When I'm asking you to read anything that's under the OER tab under our course readings, it's denoted with an O in front of the title, and then I put down the title of the article and then the section under the OER that it's listed under. The articles in this OER are very small, they're thin, they're not extremely informative. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of them, so I'll put supplemental materials when I think we need them. And what I'll do is I'll either type out some lecture notes for you. I will give you links that are available from obviously permitted, copyrighted materials that we have permission to use. I'm not going to be sneaking something in that's not allowed through plagiarism laws. But I also want you to have the information that we really need to nail down for that. So for example, some of your weeks have very little reading from the OER and some of them only have supplemental reading. So that supplemental is denoted with an S. The S you'll find further down beneath the module tabs, it'll be under supplemental readings. Anything that's a linked text will have an open resource link permission text. So we have a few text readings. The first one will be Morgan Spurlock's Do You Want Lies with That? And we'll be using that for our critical analysis. We'll be using that as our template for our work next week. The next one we'll be using will be Letter from Birmingham Jail by Dr. Martin Luther King. That text we'll be using for our rhetorical analysis work. And the final text we'll be using will be called Shitty First Draft by Anne Lamott. And she's talking about this process of writing, creating an argument from nothing. And it's something that you can relate to because it is very difficult to write. It is cumbersome. I hate writing, but I have to do it. But I've learned how to do it. So that I want to make sure that you understand how that syllabus works. The things that are under the content tab are there to help you. Some of the other things I have under the content tab will be example assignments. So for every paper that I assign, every writing assignment we have except for the worksheets, I will show you an example of exactly what that paper looks like. I will put down a grading rubric for your final paper. It shows exactly what I'm looking for, the grade breakdown, so that when I grade that final paper, if you're missing something like contextualization is not clear, then you'll lose points on that, and you'll see why. I will try to give you grading rubrics for the annotated bibliography and for the abstract proposal paper too. The basic argument paper, the rhetorical critical analysis paper, will also have general guidelines, but you'll see what we're talking about, what I'm looking for in those papers as we go through this course. So that's the syllabus as denoted as best I can. You'll see the date due. So again, it's that week 1, the due date, anything that's due will be due by Sunday, 11:59 p.m. So for example, assignment 1A is going to be due next Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. So I'm already giving you an assignment, I'm sorry. But it should be an easy peasy assignment. I'll go over that assignment in just a moment. I wanted to show you some elements of the D2L shell, and I wish I had the technology with the bells and whistles to do the John Madden with the circling the things on the screen, but I don't have that up, but I will eventually learn how to do that. But under the D2L shell, under the Content tab, we've gone through what's in the Content tab. So you've got your syllabus, you've got your textbook, you've got your examples, you've got your supplemental reading, you've got your grading rubrics, like the lecture material, the video recordings, my lecture notes, PowerPoints. Those things will be under the lecture section. The next tab you'll see are assignments. The assignments, that's the drop boxes for your assignments. That's how you submit those assignments to me. You can turn in an assignment more than one time. If you'd like to revise an assignment, I encourage revision. It's the biggest part of writing. You can't be as an effective writer as possible if you do not engage in revision. We'll work a lot with revision towards the end of this semester. So, assignments that are uploaded, upload them. The one thing I cannot open, I can't open a dot pages from a Mac. I don't have the capacity to have Windows, I'm sorry. So if you can convert your paper from a Pages doc to a DOC or DOCX document, I can open that, or a PDF, I can open that. The next tab that comes along that top bar, I think in the order, is discussion posts. Every week I will post a prompt, a question for you to answer. So you read the post, you click on the thread, this is my answer to that post, and then you find one of your classmates' answers and respond to them. Don't be cruel. Be encouraging. It's collaboration. It's trying to get you to work as a class to see how you can help each other. You can completely disagree with someone, but be kind about it. Explain why. Supportive evidence, that's what we're looking for. So if you're going to disagree, agree, give them reasons why so that we can learn together. The next section of the D2L shell, you'll see after the discussion posts, it should be the grading section. You'll see an up-to-date listing of your grades. They'll be real time, and if I've missed a grade for the discussion post, you've got to let me know because that's the only one that doesn't link. There's a quizzes tab. I think that's before the grading one. The quizzes tab, you'll find your 2 quizzes. Those are due by the last day of the semester, so you have till December 15th to get those quizzes done and submitted, and I'll grade them and get them back to you. Then after the grading section, you'll see an attendance tab. Financial aid requires that we take attendance at Pikes Peak Community College. For whatever reason, I don't understand the ins and outs of it, but we can't take attendance in person. I don't know if you're here personally, but I can see if you've signed in. I can see if you've done a post. So I just wanted to let you know that I'll keep track of that. I can see who in the class list has engaged. So I will do my best to make sure that everyone is noted every week that they have participated. If you can't make it, there's no worries. Just touch base with me and say, hey, I was sick this week. I wasn't able to sign on. No worries. If you have any questions, again, let me know. My email address is Christine, CHRISTINE.Moreno, MORENO, @ppcc.edu. And that is also on the front page of the syllabus. All right, moving on then to the lecture notes, PowerPoints. They're organized by weeks. I'll try to either put them under the weeks or associate with the modules so you'll be able to identify what I'm talking about. You'll be able to see. Feel free to just sift through the information I have posted on there. If you have any questions, if you see a typo, if you see an error, let me know. I expect feedback too. So I will add further rubrics. I will add the assignments samples. I haven't put those up yet, but I will get those as soon as possible, especially for one I want to make sure that you see that one. I will add the second quiz later through this semester. So, shifting course, finish up this first, I'm so sorry, it must be a boring as can be video, but we'll finish this up. So the first thing I wanted to tell you about, reading, analyzing, writing. So reading, what we're looking for in reading, when we're reading something closely and critically, We're looking for things that are interesting, that are strange, that are revealing. Looking for patterns, you're looking for anomalies, you're looking for repetitions, anything that catches your eye. As you're reading along, sometimes it's dreadfully boring, but something catches your eye. Make a note of where you see that, something that strikes you. Make a note of that. That's what we're doing with annotating. Annotating is when you're taking notes on something that strikes your fancy, something that catches your eye. Because you want to go back and think about that. Why did that author do that? Is that a mistake? Is that deliberate? Are they making a statement? Is there a deeper meaning in that? That's what we're going to be looking for. The other thing, when you're reading, I want you to think about the structural choices. When you're writing yourself, you make structural choices. How do you want your paragraphs to flow? How do you want your supportive evidence to come through? Authors also do that, and I want you to look at what are the structural choices. Now, when we're reading the Morgan Spurlock piece, especially, his structural choices are very interesting. His thesis is not where you would expect it to be, which is towards the front of an argument. His thesis comes way late. I want you to think about why he's doing that. If you have a reason why he's doing that, maybe he's a sloppy writer. Another thing I want you to think about is, does he have supporting claims and evidence? Does he give citations for that supporting evidence? Why or why not? Think about those things. Does he give you a so what? What I mean by a so what is it's at the end of a paper, any kind of argument. It's a charge where you, the author, are turning over responsibility to your reader to do, to act, to change, to think differently about something, to really double down. So you're saying, here, I've made this argument and now I'm giving you responsibility for the argument, for the message. I want you to do something about this argument instead of just saying, yeah, that was okay. I want you to think about what's the so what? What's at stake with this argument? So we're going to really look at those so whats. We're going to pump that up, and I call it the so what because when I was writing myself in grad school, one of my professors said, this is a really sweet, cute essay, but so what? I was devastated because, wow, I didn't want to be sweet and cute. I wanted it to be interesting. I wanted it to be provocative. That's what I want your goal to be, provocative, poignant. Give something to your reader to do. Make them attend and make them do. So that's your goal. While you're doing the reading process, look at your authors, see what they're doing. I want you to look at if they're effective or persuasive. Think about that. Are their writing choices effective? Are their rhetorical appeals and strategies persuasive? Thinking about those things. I want you to think about the basic writing formula, and this is something that we'll emphasize a lot. I'll put it up on D2L. The basic writing formula for any researched argument is simple. A hook title. You want to catch your reader's attention. You don't want it to be something really bland. Essay 1A. That doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't make me want to read it. It makes me gnaw my arm off and go play with my dogs you've seen running around in the background here. What I want you to do is catch my attention. Hit me over the head by telling me something. Give me something to anticipate. Hey, I'm going to give you this argument and it's encapsulated in my hook title. So I'm going to work on coming up with really effective titles. That's something we'll work on this semester. So 1, in your writing formula, a hook title. 2, intro paragraph. Intro paragraph does 3 things. First thing, catches your reader's attention again. You've got a hook. You've got some choices to make. You can do a narrative, you can do an interrogative, you can give some real life examples, you can use a quote. We'll work with those things, but you want to give them a hook. Second thing an intro paragraph does, and it's really important to do, and we'll spend a lot of time thinking about this too, contextualization. I need you to tell me the situation. What is going on? Who are these people? What are they writing about? It could be the full name of the author, the full text that they're writing about. Morgan Spurlock's Do You Want Lies with That is an essay about. That gives me some contextualization, more contextualization. In the face of American consumerism in the late 20th century, Morgan Spurlock tackles the concept of overconsumption in his Do You Want Lies with That? That's an example of really contextualizing the situation, what we're looking at. For a basic argument paper, you want to tell somebody the problem at hand and why you're engaged in this argument. If I'm arguing that dogs are better than cats for pets, I want to make sure that I explain, what do I mean by a domesticated dog? What do I mean by a domesticated cat? Why is this a problem? Some people are fiercely loyal, some people are allergic. I want to really put those kind of things in there for the context. So, I'll say it right. Restating. So, for an intro paragraph, you want to do the hook, bring your reader in. You want to contextualize the problem or the author and the text at hand. The third thing, most important thing in there, is your thesis. What is your argument? What is your argument? What's your main argument? The main driving structural argument of this paper. A thesis has to have arguability. It has to have something that you need to spend time wanting to defend, because somebody can say, meh. You don't want it to be just an opinion. I like apples over oranges. You want it to be something that's defensible. I like dogs over cats. Do I really? Doesn't matter. But what you want to argue, dogs are superlative to cats as pets because dogs offer, foot warmers in the winter, or however you want to structure. It can be that kind of simple, or it can be a big argument. Look at the world leaders today. We need to have climate change enactments because blah. We don't need to have climate change because blah. So you have both sides, but they always give you a thesis that's arguable, that it can continue, the conversation continue with the so what. So the first part of your formula, hook title, intro paragraph. Intro paragraph containing a hook, contextualization, and a thesis. The next part of the formula, body paragraphs. That's where the heavy lifting of your proof occurs. Body paragraphs, transition linking from one paragraph to the next, from your intro to your body paragraphs, and then from your body paragraphs to your conclusion. Strong thesis point or topic sentence guiding your first body paragraph sentence or sentences. Then you have your claim. Claims have to have evidence. Claim, evidence. Think of them as conjoined. One without another isn't going to work. But you can't let the evidence just sit there. I call it like sitting like bird poop on a page. You have to make sure you tease it out. Tell me what you, as the author, want me, as the audience or reader, need to do with that piece of evidence. Tell me how you want me to interpret that quotation you put in there, or the cited information, the paraphrase. What do you want me to do with that evidence? How does that prove your point? Don't worry that you're restating. That's important because you want to keep control and authority within your text. So, body paragraphs. Topic point, thesis statement. Claims, evidence, interpretation. Link to the next paragraph. The final component part of your template for writing is your conclusion paragraph. Conclusion paragraph mirrors your intro paragraph. You're going to back away. You're going to transition out. So you're proposing to say, this is where I've been. This is my contextualization. I'm going to recontextualize. It's really important to say, this was the text I was looking at. This is the author I was looking at. This is the problem I was considering. This is my thesis again. You restate your thesis. It can be an exact restatement. It can be modified a little bit. And then the final thing, the big thing, is the so what. This is what I want you to do, reader, with this information. Boom. Easy peasy. So, template. Hook title, intro paragraph. Intro paragraph having context, a hook, a context, thesis. Body paragraph, transition, claims, evidence, interpretation, link, conclusion. Restate contextualization, restate your thesis, so what? And out you go, argument's over. Simple, simple, we'll work on that. Don't make it bigger than it has to be. Remember, a formula can be very simple. You're fleshing out the details. All right, now we're going to move into the next section. We're almost finished. Why don't you go over the thing called the writing situation? And this is something in the old textbook, if you've used the previous one from academic inquiry, academic writing to inquiry, something like that. Inquiry to academic writing, that was it. So there are 5 elements of the writing situation I want you to think about. We'll be using those for critical writing and for our own writing. So the 5 elements, and I'll put this up on D2L this week, the 5 things I want to think about. First is genre, what type of writing it is. Genre is a category. So they have expectations when they have them. If you tell me I've written a letter, that's the type of genre it is. I have expectations that it has someone it's written to and who it's written from. There's an implied intimacy or maybe not. But if you have a kid's story and all of a sudden it breaks into horrible use of profanities, there's something really odd about that. That's an anomaly. That's something I want to look at. Why? Why is this guy losing his mind? Is it because it is not really for the kids? So there is a book called Go the F to Sleep that Samuel L. Jackson reads, and it's ostensibly a kid's nighttime bed story. But when you read it and you see all the profanities in there, you hear Samuel L. Jackson actually read it out loud on audio, you go, oh, this is for adults. But that's an interesting expectation. Why are you mixing genres like that? The second area of the writing situation is context. We talked about that just a little bit ago. Context. The situation, what's the background? So if we're going to be analyzing, say for example, we're going to analyze a poem. If it was written in the 1960s in America, if it was written in Chicago by an African American woman, well, that has all kinds of interesting elements of cultural interpretation that we can put on that text. That we can say maybe this author, this poet, wrote this in this way because of this experience she had. So we want to think about context matters. We want to look at things like with Martin Luther King Jr.'s text, Letter from Birmingham Jail. It is a letter. It is from Birmingham, Alabama jail. It's not written from Birmingham, England. So you want to really nail down that contextual information so you know how you want to interpret it. And as a writer, you want to make sure you can identify the contextual information for your reader. The third one we're going to talk about is audience. We talked about that earlier in this video. Audience matters. Who is the audience? Who's the target audience? We really want to think about that. The last 2 elements are purpose and subject. What is your purpose in writing this? Is it to persuade? Is it to entertain? Is it to educate? Is it to just babble on? Is it to petition for a raise? Think about what your purpose is. And the subject. What is the subject? A very simple answer, although it could have lots of levels of complexity. So that's the writing situation, the 5 elements: genre, context, audience, purpose, subject. The next thing we're going to look at analysis. Analysis, we're looking for effectiveness, persuasiveness, and why are we not? Or some elements of both. We'll go into that more next week, but we're looking at rhetorical elements of appeals, strategies an author uses to make those appeals, and devices they use to decorate their language. Critical analysis towards effectiveness. Is the structure interesting? Is the structure flawed? When I think of those things. So now for writing, we've gone over the basic formula. We've gone over some tenets of what we're looking for with the writing situation, how to organize your thinking around that, and how to analyze around that. We've gone over the papers that we're going to be working for this semester, the basic argument, the critical analysis, the synthesis, which is your research paper. Synthesis is bringing 2 or more voices together to join a conversation. I'll spend a lot of time with synthesis because that's what the paper is. I want to think about, as we're leaving up, I have just 2 more things. We're going to go over very briefly assignment 1A, and then I want to go over briefly 1B so you have some idea of what's going on. I want to go over one last thing. Think about the 3 C's of writing: clarity, concision, and coherence. Write unto others as others would write unto you, as you would want somebody to write to you. That's what your goal should be. You don't want to put something sloppy on there. The best writers are the ones who get the best results in their petitions. It could be the worst worker, it could be the laziest coworker, but if they can write, they probably have an edge on you. So think about that. So, explaining 1A. 1A, very simple, 3-paragraph paper. I want you to find a political or an editorial cartoon. Best place to find it, New Yorker. So Google New Yorker, look for images, look for a good political cartoon, editorial cartoon, political cartoon. Copy that image down if you can, save it to your hard drive so you can reference it. If you can upload it for your paper, that'd be great so I can see it too. The first paragraph you're going to describe. What do you see? Don't put any evaluative or analytic assessments on that. Just what do you see? In this room behind me, you see a lot of books. Some are bigger, some are smaller. Lots of books, lots of bookcases. You see a lady with gray hair, purpley black shirt. You hear dogs barking in the background uncontrollably. That's what I want you to describe. The second portion, the second paragraph I want you to think about is I want you to talk about the analysis. How is it placed? Is the crazy gray-haired lady in the middle of the frame?